as I said earlier, Varun Shankar, he published a post in the Washington Post during which he discussed and addressed some of the escalating prices for tickets for the Washington Wizards. The article was titled, "With Season Ticket Prices Up and Fortunes Down, Some Wizards Fans Tap Out." And in the article, Shankar, he briefly outlined some of the stories of Wizards season ticket holders at varying price levels, almost all of whom have taken issue with the team's year-over-year price increase in season ticket costs. Per Shankar, out of the 41 season ticket pricing tiers, 34 of them have seen an increase in costs. And he even outlined a pair which jumped by more than $10,000 year over year. Troy, what are you making of this price increase?
I think the observation that I would have has to be the fact that the prices are increasing, but I don't think that the amount of services and things that you're getting increases. So it's like you're really just paying more for the same stuff. And, I think that it's very ambitious for the team to, have these very dramatic price increases when the product on the floor has really kind of declined over the last couple of years. So, I think with every business, you have to, deal with the evolving landscape of the economy. And, I think that is part of the reason why they're raising ticket prices right now, is because everything is just getting more expensive. But, to me, I think that they probably would have been better served to at least try to increase some of the provided services that fans can get from paying these extravagant prices.
Oh, definitely. I think, one thing to really stick to there, as you raised, the product on the floor has definitely not been great at all. I mean, it's kind of hitting an all-time low. The last two seasons, the team's only won 33 games combined. That's not only the worst in that stretch in the NBA, that's the worst in franchise history for back-to-back seasons. So, to do so right now is not great timing. It's definitely not great optics. But Damo, as a fan of the team, how are you feeling of these escalating prices?
I see it more as just kind of par for the course. Like, I mean, like Troy said, everything is up in price. I mean, houses, cars, water,
Eggs.
Power.
eggs. Like, I mean, in a little bit, we're gonna be paying for air. Like, it's just what it is right now. So, they got a bottom line they got to hit. So, I get it. It just the timing of it is pretty bad though, because 33 wins combined in two seasons and you jacking prices up, like it's not going to sit right with a lot of people. But I don't think this decision was made lightly, and I think it's more than likely what they had to do because of everything that's happened around them with the economy and the prices of everything going up. So.
Well, with that in mind, we have talked about the team's on-floor lack of success over the past few seasons. That they already came to a head last year. They were second lowest in total home attendance in the entire NBA last year. And they just had a little over 6,000 more people in attendance than the Atlanta Hawks for their home games. The difference, though, is that the Hawks actually only played 40 home games last year, whereas the Wizards had 41, and so did the majority of the league with 41. So on a per home game basis, the Wizards had the lowest average in attendance. Troy, you noted that obviously their efforts are trying to bring people in with these giveaways. Do you think that'll be successful given the rise in prices?
No, I think the only thing that will make this successful is if the team goes out there and plays well and actually tries to compete and win games. And if you can start believing in the young core. The fan giveaways and stuff, that's all well and good. The thing that will actually put butts back in the seats is, if the fans can actually believe that this young core has a promising future.
Right. And to add on to that, earlier this week you had actually published something through your Substack, Ideal Taste, during which you kind of are trying to be a shepherd of hope for the franchise. Isn't that right?
Yeah, well, I wanted to, give Wizards fans, some optimism heading into the season. I feel like, one of the things that is, very prevalent around the league is that not a lot of people believe in the Wizards winning a lot of games this year. I saw that, Kevin Pelton wrote a piece where he does his predictions for using his fancy models. And he said that the Wizards were predicted to win 14.2 games this year, and that would make them the lowest predicted win team since he's created the model. And so, like
That's not great.
Yeah, that's not great, Bob. Not great. And so, what we have to be looking at here from, the Wizards standpoint is like, there are some things to be optimistic. And the thing that I am most optimistic about is the fact that this rebuild has been done correctly. And so, when we looked at, when Ernie Grunfeld was fired in 2019 and Ted Leonsis, went out and talked to 100 different people, he wanted to come up with this concept of monumental basketball. And, that would be the kind of vertical integration of what he wanted the basketball arm of Monumental Sports to be. And I don't think that, that really began to take shape until Michael Winger and Will Dawkins came in. And so, that's the things that I really highlighted in my piece was really talking about how, they've come in and, really allowed for everybody to kind of, be delegated a certain and specific task. And those tasks are now combined together to make a whole sum. And, if they just continue to build on the sum of those parts, then I think that, they will have a bright future. But at the very least, if they're not predicted to win a lot of games, like at the very least, again, that the young players are going out there and they're improving and getting better.
And Damo, do you echo that sentiment? Do you feel like there is some real hope for the direction of the franchise?
Oh, no question. I mean, I jokingly call them OKC East because I feel like the bones of it, how it's being built, kind of like even the infrastructure around it, just with when you hear players talk about like their experiences with training and the staff and how it just seemed like everybody cares what the players got going on and just the attention to detail and how it's almost kind of like a college atmosphere when you come there, in the way that they prepare and provide services to the players now. I just think, it's reason to be optimistic. And then when you look at the talent on the floor, the parts that they've put in place, I think it's lending itself for them to have a defensive identity with a lot of athletes flying around and playing modern basketball, which is something I've begged them for a few years now. Versatility, 5 out, the ball not sticking, everybody having the ability to dribble, pass, shoot, and handle the basketball. So, it's reason to be excited. It's just a matter of what player or players is going to kind of carry that mantle and be the face of the franchise.
I hear you both, and I think my only gripe right now is, and this is a larger worry, is obviously I want to have that hope. I want to afford them that length to develop these players and for these players to take the spotlight, right? The worry, though, is whether the fan base can actually watch them, right? That's the concern here is, we're 2 weeks past just having that very in-depth conversation, and we continued the last week about Monumental Sports' disconnection from YouTube TV and Hulu with Live TV, and you pair that in with the increased cost of going to see these games in person, you will risk truly diluting the fan base entirely. And I think obviously these things didn't happen concurrently with a purpose, right? I don't think that Monumental intentionally raised it knowing that they were going to lose the licensing agreements. So I don't think that there was malice there, obviously, but it's definitely not great optics that this came out at the time they had that issue, right? Where, they did lower the price for the annual cost for Monumental Sports Plus, but they didn't do so for the monthly. And so, if you are a diehard Wizards fan and you were watching it through YouTube TV or Hulu with Live TV, which seems very reasonable to have done so because those services also offer other live channels that you can watch. But then you lost the Wizards, right? You lost the Mystics, and you lost the Capitals, too, because this extends to them as well. And because the cost was only lowered for the annual instead of the monthly, let's say you sprung for the annual plan, that's not a cheap cost. It's a pretty upward front cost to actually afford. And so to do so also increasing the game prices, you're kind of pricing out the audience, and you're catering to a crowd which feels like you're only catering to the wealthy side of this area, which is kind of a shrinking side, if we're being honest, considering the just general landscape of workers right now, considering like just the general federal shutdown. And so
Just about to say.
you're kind of losing a lot of fans here unintentionally. So now the question to you, Troy, I'll ask is, how do you retain that fan base? How do you keep them engaged knowing that they're kind of being priced out?
This is, again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but the biggest solution would be to go out and win. And so, I guarantee you, if Trey Johnson goes out there and plays like a rookie of the year candidate, if Alex Sarr makes a jump, if Bilal Coulibaly turns into a most improved player type of most improved candidate, like, I think that then fans will want to pay Monumental Sports $19 a month to watch their favorite players. But I think in the meantime, I think that price point is a little bit unreasonable, and we're just going to have to see how this all plays out. I did notice that for the Capitals game the other day, that Ted Leonsis had tweeted out that if anybody that was at the Capitals game and they lost YouTube TV and their Monumental Sports services, come to Section 104 and get a free gift card for a year subscription to Monumental Sports Network. And so, I feel like that they might try to do something very similar with the Wizards. And so if they are able to kind of continue incentivizing people to, not only come to the games and, like you say, are you really giving it away for free if you have to be at a game in order to get it? But, like, again, we're just going to have to be patient and see, how they determine to solve this issue. But, again, the best way to do this is to go out there and win.
Right. And while I'm glad that you brought up what it is that they did at the Capitals game, because that kind of parallels a little bit what you had proposed their original solution for this was. I mean, it's not fully what you had hoped for them to do so, because you still have to, unfortunately, watch the games through that app, which isn't the most friendly app. But they are trying to make it accessible to the fans. Granted, it is those who are in attendance. So, I mean, if you're looking at hopefully them trying to replicate that for Wizards games, then I guess everyone try to see if you can make it to that home opener. It's against the Hornets, so it's not like it's going to cost a lot because, spoiler alert, another team that's not really going to have a great year. So it's going to be a little bit more affordable there, and it is a bit cheaper. If you can get it for a game ticket that's like $30, that is noticeably cheaper than the $180 that it is for the full annual subscription. So it does make it a little bit more affordable, and it does at least make it seem as though the ownership group is trying to bridge the gap here, because that's what they really need to do. They need to try to connect to this audience and this fan base as much as they humanly can, because if not, then you run the risk of not just breeding discontent because the product on the floor isn't great. You also run the risk of complete disinterest, which is nothing any franchise ever could possibly want for any team operating in any city, especially one which operates so many teams in this area. That could be a huge, huge no-no. But we're going to take our first break here. When we get back, we'll talk a little bit more about the Wizards preseason, and then we'll go through some season predictions for the Wizards. This is the Capital Hoop Caucus on ESPN 630 and the ESPN 630 app.